This is going to be one of the most important modules in the course because it can make a huge difference in your income when you place the ads in a good place versus a bad place on the screen. Now, this particular chart is one that was published by Google, and the darker areas of the screen here represent good ad placement. So this would be the very best one towards the center, and then the lighter areas are the worst ones. So as you can see, generally speaking, across the top above the menu bar in most websites where often there's a logo up here or something, this is actually a very bad area to place an ad, and the sidebars are not that great. Now the left sidebar is a little bit better than the right sidebar if you have one of those, and then the footer area is the worst of all. You see this, it's all completely white. I'm going to show you a couple of other samples. This is another example which is a little bit clearer. You have a typical blog here with a logo and then the menu, and then an article in the middle with wrapping around an ad unit. People's eyes, at least in Western countries, are reading from left to right, left to right, left to right. And so each time that they finish a line, their eyes are bumping into this ad, and even when they get down here, they're going all the way across, and their eyes are bumping into an ad that's in the sidebar over to the right. And then finally they finish the article, and there's an ad at the bottom. So this is a not too bad of a layout. In fact, it's fairly strong, and it's really good that the ad is within the article text where the article text is wrapping around it. But let me show you a couple other examples. For me, this doesn't look very pretty, but basically it's illustrating a site that actually has no sidebar at all, no left or right sidebar. It's just a wide form setup, and the strongest ad is this one. Once again, eyes moving left to right, they run into the ad, so these ads get clicked a lot. Now this little black area up here, a lot of people put ads up here, and it's not a good place at all to put an ad. It's amazing how many people make that error and how much more money they could make if they just took that same ad and put it elsewhere on the page. And then you see in this article, this is really important, there's a second ad right here kind of buried in the middle of the text, and the text takes a break, makes space for the ad, and this ad happens to be a leaderboard. It's 728 by 90, it goes all the way across the screen, assuming that this is wide enough to fit 728 by 90, and then the article text continues after that. And then you see at the bottom there's another big box ad here. Now I've labeled this strongest, second strongest, and third strongest because in my experience with lots of different websites, the top ad gets the most clicks and the best payment per click. The one at the end of the article, oddly enough, performs a little better than those in the middle of the article, but the ones in the middle of the article perform quite well. If we compare this to the previous screen where we have an ad unit over here in the sidebar, this layout with the ad buried inside the article text always performs better. Now sometimes you'll have a site and this just doesn't look that clean. You're mixing your content, maybe your photos and your text with ads, and some people don't feel comfortable with this because it isn't as tidy. But I guarantee you that a setup like this with ads buried inside the text performs at least 2 to 3 times better than typical sites that might have ads and sidebars over here. And really importantly, take note of this. In the new mobile world where depending on which site you're looking at, 40 to 60 and sometimes as much as 70% of traffic is coming through mobile devices, and often a big percentage of that is through phones that have very small screens. And what happens in those cases is when you have a site like this one that has a right-hand sidebar, what the users see is an ad, which is actually quite good, and then they see text of an article, then they see another ad, then they see comments, and then they scroll down, and then they see the sidebar. So the sidebar gets pushed all the way underneath the other content. So when you have a really bad layout of your site, let's say that all of your ads were in the sidebar and in the header, for mobile users, all the ads then get pushed down below the content, and what that means is that most mobile users never even see the ads at all, and they rarely get clicked. So for mobile purposes, you want to do something like this where you have all the ads embedded within the content, and if the user reads all the content, they actually are going to see all the ads. Now here's some layouts that we used in the past before Google changed some rules. and they perform pretty decent. Like this one performed pretty well with, we have a tower ad going all the way down the sidebar. It's taller, it's the 600 pixel variety, so it's longer, and there was more exposure to the reader to this ad because it was quite tall, and then we had a big box up top. And this layout still performs pretty decent. I mean, it is subject to the problem of this ad for mobile users will appear down at the bottom, but this actually works pretty decent. And then this one over here is similar, except it has two boxes right beside each other, and then the big tower ad and nothing at the bottom. However, Google made a change about 2 years ago where they said, we're going to actually measure how much ad space is being taken up by, rather, how much of your website real estate is being taken up by ads, and particularly in the top section of your website. It's called above the fold, meaning that this is the part of the website that displays without scrolling down. And what Google said is that sites like, especially like this one too, but especially like this one, sites where most of the content on the page is ads before the user scrolls down to actually see the real value in the page, the real content in the page, are going to be penalized. So that's why nowadays you don't see people doing this nearly as much, because Google just sends less traffic to them. This is a SEO indicator, a bad SEO indicator if you're using too much of the floor space of the whole site to be ads, and particularly if the ads are at the very top, because Google considers that to be user unfriendly. So a layout like this, actually Google is quite happy with, because there's good content on the very first part of the screen that a user sees. And yes, there's some ad content, so it's not against the rule to have ads above the fold, but you definitely have to have good content. Now, there's a question about whether the ad is strongest over here, right justified or left justified. And as you saw on the Google chart, you know, they have more orange over here on the left, and then the colors are a little bit lighter over here on the right. However, my personal experience and the several times that I've actually met with Google staff where we've looked at sites together and they've made recommendations, they actually agree with me that the right position is often a little bit stronger than the left. Now, every website is different. You have a different audience, and so it's not bad to test both the left and the right. But this is what I found in my experience to work pretty well. And then these kinds of layouts, whereas they might work for a few weeks and deliver pretty good returns because the ads are the first thing the user sees, they're going to be bad for you for SEO, and you really don't want to do that. Now that we looked at kind of the theoretical ad placement, what I wanted to do is actually show you some real sites. And we looked at this site when we were talking about how to get your AdSense account accepted. Well, what we didn't really look at is the placement of the ads. So there's no ad up top, so that's actually pretty good. But as you look at the article itself, the two ads that we see first are both buried in sidebars. And if this is a responsive site, if it's optimized for mobile users, then those sidebars are going to fall to the bottom and no one will ever see them. And as you see, as we scroll down through this, you know, it's a nice long article, which is good, but we don't see any ads within the text of the article. And then these things at the bottom are called native ads, which is different than AdSense, but something that we might talk about in another course. Here's another website, and this site also has ads over here in the sidebar. It does a good job kind of just having the title of the magazine and going right into the title of the article. And they've chosen to put an AdSense ad within the text, wrapping the text around it, which is a good choice. Now, a better choice would be to have this ad appear up here, right under these share buttons with the text to the right of it, instead of, because here, as you see, I'm having to scroll down before I see the ad. So just that simple error is costing them quite a bit. Maybe much better having that ad higher up. And as you scroll down, they're not taking advantage of, well, actually, I'm sorry, here they do have an ad here at the bottom, but it's a small one in this particular ad format. It's not the wide leaderboard, so it gets less ad inventory and thus less revenue. Let's take a look at another example. Here's another site, and this site, of course, is making the error of having an ad up here above the title. Users are just conditioned to kind of skip over the headers and the menus, and if there's ads up here, not really even look at them and scroll down to where they get to the title of the article and actually start reading the article itself. So that's a very bad placement on their part. And of course, they have ads in the sidebars here and another ad. And another thing I wanted to show you is you see as I scroll down through their article, this ad is staying in the same place. That is actually against Google terms and conditions. You can't have a sticky ad like that. And a lot of websites get away with it because this is something that's not really simple for Google to detect with their bots. But if someone reported this site, they can get in trouble for doing that because it is against their terms and conditions. Let me just show you real quickly. This is support.google.com Adsense answers here, and you can take note of this, or you could just search for terms and conditions. But here it says, I sometimes see the ads are fixed on the left or right side while scrolling down. Are they policy violations? And AdSense replied, yes, they are. They're referred to as sticky ads, and they're restricted to approved publishers. So you can't do that unless you have explicit permission from Google AdSense. And of course, and if you don't, then you risk them shutting down your account, potentially confiscating your money. And then there are several other conditions as well. Can you display ads above the fold? Well, we said yes, you can. You just want to make sure that there is content alongside those ads. And then there's a question about blending colors to match the ads. And as I advise you, it is really wise to make your link color, the color that your links are on your website, to match the color of links in the ads, or vice versa, so that they're similar. But what you can't do is try to fool the user into thinking that the ad is just a natural part of your website. So you have to kind of be careful to make sure that that's obvious to users. And the other thing is you can't label ads anything but sponsored links or advertisements. So you certainly can't say things like click here, or you can't say here's some news you might want to check out, things like that. A couple more examples. This site is doing pretty well. They do have kind of an ad up here. It's not an AdSense ad, but also it's not going to be very effective for them. And then here they have their first AdSense ad. It's left justified. It's right under the title. That's always good. And then they have another ad here at the bottom. So they've done actually a decent job. And then they have a sidebar. Now, one thing that I like to do, which this site has implemented, is there is no sidebar whatsoever. So for mobile users, this is really ideal. They put all their content just in the center, and of course it's very wide here, but they have the ad placement over on the right, like we discussed, is a good thing. And then this happens to be a very big article, so they've actually embedded ads inside the article at kind of random places, and this is good. They have a mix of the big box ad. This is a 336 by 280, and then these are 728 by 90s. So that means that in the auction process, when Google's deciding what ads to display there, they can get the best of best worlds. They can get the highest paying 336 ad in this spot, and then the highest paying 728 in this spot, because this is the first 728 on the screen, this is the first 336 on the screen, and that's how Google assesses where the highest paying ads will go, and that's because ads higher on the page always get the highest click-through rate. And as you scroll down through the article, it's very long. Now, you've heard me say, and you'll see that Google says that there's a maximum of 3 ads per page, but the truth is that when you see lengthy articles like this one, and you have plugins like ad injection that allow you to insert random articles at different points during the text, that there are a lot of sites that get away with many ads on the page, and AdSense seems to um, not have a problem with that. Now, if you try to put a lot of ads on a very short article, AdSense definitely has a problem with that. And you can't do things like stack the ads. They don't let on the mobile phone, one of their rules, I'm not sure where it's recorded, but my AdSense rep told me this, that when you're looking at a mobile phone, if you can see the entirety of two ads on the screen at the same time, then that's too close together. So you need to have some amount of text in between the ads, or you can kind of get in trouble. And this site, even though the article is very, very long, they've stuck to the convention of having an ad at the very bottom. So of all the ones that we looked at, this is the best. Now, take note of this. I'm going to give you a principle here that's really, really important, not just for AdSense, but any kind of monetization of a website that you do. And that is, you have to have a purpose in mind, something that you want your users to do when they come to your website page. And for an AdSense site, you only want them to do one of two things. One is to click on an AdSense ad, and the other is potentially to just stay on your site and read other articles where they can also click on an AdSense ad. So there's only two possible outcomes that you want to happen. Click on an ad, or stay on your site, read another article, and click on an ad. So the idea behind that is if you give the users a whole bunch of options, like if you give them a really messy sidebar over here with a lot of things to click on to go to other sites or your friends' websites or other pages, or look at picture galleries, or whatever the distractions might be, you're taking away from your ultimate purpose. Your ultimate purpose is to get them to click on an AdSense ad. And that's why oftentimes, almost always, a site like this is very simple. It's only giving the users two choices. One is to stay on this site and use the menu to find another article on the site, or to click on an AdSense ad. Those are the only two actions that the site encourages you to do, and I encourage you to keep that principle in mind. Yes, sometimes those things can be pretty in the sidebars, and you can think of how users could be helped by additional resources or places to go, but that's not going to make you the most money. So at the end of the day, this kind of a strategy, really simple, make it real clear what the options are for your user, is going to earn you the most money.